Sometimes the best way to expose someone's true nature is to give them exactly what they want. I'm Katherine, and this is the story of how I let my greedy in-laws take control of my family estate, only to watch their own actions become their undoing. When I inherited Oakwood Manor from my parents, it was more than just a $7 million estate. It was our family's legacy. The sprawling Victorian mansion had been in my family for 5 generations, each one adding their own touches while preserving its historic charm. What my in-laws saw, however, was just dollar signs. My husband Michael's parents, Robert and Eleanor, had always been obsessed with status and wealth. From the moment Michael and I got married, they'd made it clear they thought he could have done better than a history professor's daughter. The fact that my family's estate was worth more than they'd earned in their entire lives was something they couldn't quite reconcile. "It's really such a shame," Eleanor would say during family dinners, "that such a beautiful property isn't being used to its full potential. You could be hosting society events, making important connections." What she meant was that she should be the one hosting those events. Robert would always chime in with suggestions about how they could help manage the estate, dropping hints about their experience with luxury properties. They owned a small vacation rental in Florida. I managed the estate the way my parents had, as a home, not a status symbol. We maintained its historic features, kept the gardens beautiful, and used it for family gatherings and occasional charity events. This drove my in-laws crazy. "You're wasting its potential," Robert would complain. With the right management, this place could be generating serious income. The situation came to a head when Michael lost his job. He'd been a successful investment banker, but a market downturn led to layoffs at his firm. Suddenly, our comfortable life became more complicated. That's when my in-laws made their move. "We have a proposal," Eleanor announced during one of their visits. "Why don't you let us take over managing the estate? We can turn it into an exclusive event venue. You and Michael can stay in the guest house while we handle everything." I started to refuse, but Michael squeezed my hand under the table. "We should at least consider it," he said quietly. "Just until I find another position." Looking at his worried face, I made a decision, but not the one they expected. "All right," I said. "You can take over managing the estate." Eleanor's eyes lit up with triumph, but I wasn't finished. "However, I have some conditions. First, everything needs to be properly documented. Second, I want security cameras installed throughout the property, for insurance purposes, of course." They agreed readily, too eager to question why I was suddenly so accommodating. Michael looked relieved, though slightly puzzled by my easy acquiescence. What my in-laws didn't know was that I'd already consulted with my family's longtime lawyer about their potential takeover attempts. The security cameras were his suggestion, along with several other precautionary measures. "Trust me," he'd said. "People show their true colors when they think they've won." The cameras were installed the next day, high-end, discreet models that covered every important area of the house and grounds. I made sure Robert and Eleanor signed documents acknowledging their presence, for liability reasons. Within a week, they had moved into the main house, relegating us to the guest house as planned. Eleanor immediately began renovating, which meant removing family portraits and replacing antique furniture with modern pieces more to her taste. "We need to appeal to an upscale clientele," she explained, as she had my great-grandmother's hand-carved dining table put into storage. I watched it all through the security feeds, documenting every change, every removal, every conversation where they gloated about finally having control of the estate. Then they started telling people they own the property. "Oh yes, it's been in the family for years," Eleanor would say to potential clients, conveniently leaving out which family she meant. "We recently took over full ownership from our son's wife. She simply couldn't manage it properly." Robert went even further, actually forging documents to show potential investors that they had ownership rights. They started accepting deposits for events, promising exclusive use of the estate without consulting me. But the worst was yet to come. One evening, reviewing the security footage, I watched them in the library, discussing their real plans. "Once we've established our management position," Robert was saying, "we can push for full control. I've already talked to a lawyer about challenging the inheritance. We just need to prove Katherine is an unfit custodian." Eleanor laughed. "That won't be hard. We've already documented all the neglect we've had to correct. And with Michael unemployed, we can argue they're financially incapable of maintaining the property." They went on to discuss plans to sell the estate once they gained control, splitting the profits with their lawyer, who was helping them fabricate evidence. I let this continue for exactly 2 months, carefully backing up every bit of security footage, every forged document, every fraudulent contract they created. My lawyer helped me document everything meticulously. Then, just as they were about to host their first major event, a wedding for which they'd accepted a $50,000 deposit, I made my move. The court hearing was initially scheduled to address their petition to challenge my ownership of the estate. They arrived with their lawyer, confident in their fabricated evidence of my mismanagement. "Your Honor," their lawyer began, "we can prove that Mrs. Katherine Wilson has neglected this historic property and is financially unable to maintain it properly. My clients, as experienced property managers, have already invested considerable resources in necessary repairs and upgrades." I sat quietly with my lawyer as they presented their case, watching Eleanor's smug smile grow with each alleged piece of evidence. Then it was our turn. "Your Honor," my lawyer said, "before we proceed, I'd like to present some video evidence." Eleanor's smile faltered slightly as the courtroom screen lit up. The first clip showed her and Robert discussing their plans to forge ownership documents. The second showed them accepting deposits for events they had no right to book. The third showed them plotting to sell the estate once they gained control. The judge's eyes widened as clip after clip played, each one more damning than the last. Robert and Eleanor's faces went from confident to horrified as they watched their own words and actions expose their scheme. "Furthermore," my lawyer continued, "we have documentation of every forged paper, every fraudulent contract, and every dollar they've illegally collected in deposits. We also have evidence of their intent to commit insurance fraud by falsifying repair records." The judge turned to my in-law's lawyer, who was already gathering his papers. "In light of this evidence," he said hastily, "my clients would like to withdraw their petition." "Motion to withdraw denied," the judge said firmly. "This court has seen evidence of multiple felonies. Bailiff, please take Mr. and Mrs. Anderson into custody." Eleanor started crying as the bailiff approached. "Katherine, how could you? We're family." "Family doesn't try to steal from family," I replied calmly. The aftermath was dramatic but satisfying. Robert and Eleanor were charged with multiple counts of fraud and attempted grand theft. The security footage proved instrumental in their conviction. Michael was devastated at first, but watching the videos of his parents plotting to steal his wife's inheritance opened his eyes to their true nature. "I can't believe they would do this," he said after the hearing. "All those years, I thought they just wanted to help." "They wanted to help themselves," I corrected gently, "to about $7 million worth of help." The estate was returned to my full control, though it took weeks to undo all the changes Eleanor had made. I retrieved my great-grandmother's dining table from storage, rehung the family portraits, and restored Oakwood Manor to its proper state. The wedding they had booked and taken a deposit for went ahead as planned, but under my management. The bride was actually relieved, saying she had been uncomfortable with how aggressive and unprofessional my in-laws had been. Robert and Eleanor were sentenced to 5 years in prison for fraud, with additional orders to repay all the deposits they had collected under false pretenses. Their reputations in the community were destroyed, especially after local news covered the story of how they had tried to steal a historic family estate. Michael found a new job, better than his previous one, and we moved back into the main house. The guest house was converted into a small museum showcasing the estate's history, including a carefully edited video about the recent attempt to steal it, a cautionary tale about greed and family betrayal. Last week, we hosted our first major event since the court case, a charity gala for historic preservation. As guests admired the restored family portraits and antique furniture, several people commented on how much warmer and more welcoming the house felt compared to when my in-laws had been running things. "You can feel the history here," one guest said, running her hand along the carved banister. "Some places just know who they belong to." The security cameras remain in place, though now they're just part of normal estate management rather than evidence-gathering tools. Sometimes late at night, I review the footage of my in-laws plotting to steal my inheritance, not out of bitterness, but as a reminder that sometimes you have to let people reveal themselves. Michael and I have grown stronger through this experience. He's learned to see his parents for who they really are, not who he wished they were. We're expecting our first child now, and we've already decided that he or she will grow up knowing the true value of family legacy, not just in dollars, but in dignity and honor. Eleanor occasionally sends letters from prison, still trying to justify their actions. "We only wanted what was best for the family," she writes. I don't respond, but I keep the letters filed away with the security footage. Another piece of evidence showing how some people can justify anything in the name of greed. The estate continues to host events, but now they're the kind my parents would have approved of: charity fundraisers, historical society meetings, educational tours for local schools. We've even started a program to help other historic property owners protect their homes from fraud and theft. Robert and Eleanor's scheme had an unexpected positive outcome. It made me more determined than ever to preserve and protect my family's legacy. The security systems we installed have become a model for other historic estates, and I've been asked to speak at several conferences about protecting family properties from internal threats. The guest house, which my in-laws had seen as a punishment for my husband and me, has become a popular attraction. Its small museum not only tells the story of Oakwood Manor, but serves as a warning about the importance of protecting family heritage. Sometimes people ask why I let my in-laws take control of the estate when I already suspected their intentions. I explain that sometimes the best way to fight deception is to let it fully reveal itself. The security cameras didn't create their scheme. They just documented what was already in their hearts. Michael has found peace with his parents' actions and subsequent imprisonment. They made their choice, he says now. They chose greed over family, and they're paying the price. The estate feels more like home than ever now, perhaps because we had to fight to keep it. Each room holds not just family history, but a story of how that history was protected and preserved. Last month, we discovered Eleanor had been writing a memoir in prison, claiming she and Robert were the victims of a conspiracy. My lawyer suggested we might need to take legal action to prevent publication. "No," I said after considering it. "Let her publish it. We have the videos showing exactly what happened." Sometimes the best defense is just letting people see the truth. The security footage that exposed their scheme remains secured in multiple locations, a testament to the fact that technology can be a powerful tool for protecting what matters most. But the real security at Oakwood Manor now comes from something stronger than cameras. It comes from the knowledge that we fought for what was right and won. As I sit in the library where my in-laws once plotted to steal my inheritance, I can't help but feel grateful for the hidden cameras that exposed their true nature. They thought they were taking control of a valuable property, but what they really did was remind everyone that some things like family honor and legacy are worth protecting at any cost. The estate continues to thrive, not as the exclusive venue my in-laws envisioned, but as a living piece of history that belongs to those who understand its true value. And the security cameras that caught them in their scheme? They're still watching, ensuring that Oakwood Manor remains exactly what it was always meant to be: a family legacy preserved through generations, protected not just by technology, but by those who understand that some things are worth more than money.